Alrighty, so we today are going to learn how to roll a ball. Zion, considering you're the only student in here, do you know like what is your experience with Unity or game design?
Uh, I'm new to it. I did download Unity once to try to make a game, but I looked at a few tutorials, but I just couldn't make anything work. So
Okay, no
it's kind of
worries.
confused.
Yeah. So your screen probably looks like this. Oh, hold on. I don't know why it closed when I changed my aspect. That's weird. Okay, can you see now?
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, it probably looks something like this. This is the default setup for Unity. And this is what I used for a long time as well. We've got our hierarchy up here on the left. We can see the tab up here. We got our scene in the middle. And if we click this tab here, we can look at the game. And clearly there's nothing much to look at because we don't have anything going on. In the far right, we've got the inspector. Everything about all of our assets are going to show up here on the right. We got our project down here, which has all of, like literally all of our assets. So anything that's saved, any materials we have, any prefabs we have, any downloaded assets we have, it's all going to appear here, and that's where it's saved. We can drag stuff in. So like if I went online and got a picture of like I don't know, a tree, right, and dragged it in, I could import that. Now we're in 3D, so we can't really do too much with the 2D image of a tree, but if you wanted to, you could import that. Next, we got the console. Are you in the Intro to Game Development class from Mr. Lowther?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, you've seen most of this then. Um, Sweet. So let's not do that. One of the first things that we're going to need to do, which of course we did it in the class, is we need to build ourselves a little area to make this rollable. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We can do that using just about any of these 3D objects when we're right-clicking the hierarchy. We've got a cube or sphere, a capsule or cylinder, plane, quad, so on and so forth. Uh, I like to use the cube. I don't know why. I just don't like the plane. I like to use the cube. I need to move this out of my way. There we go. Okay. So yeah, so we need to make a pretty flat area. So we're gonna do like, I don't know, 20 by 1 by 20. Looks pretty good. And you use your WASD keys while holding right click to kind of look around.
Okay.
Right, so we got our floor. Not much to talk about with the floor. Let's just kind of keep working on our little arena. So one thing though, I will say, up here in the transform box, we've got our like position, rotation, and scale. I changed these scale values, you know, our X, Y, and Z. You've taken plenty of math classes, I'm sure you know what this is. And if we wanted to, we could change our rotation. Well, that didn't really change too much, did it? We can change our rotation if we wanted to, and we can be a lot more precise. I like to keep, especially when we're doing like simple stuff, I like to keep everything very close to position 0, 1, 0, just to like make it easy when I'm aligning things. So like this square, for instance, 1, set that's like 20, and should be 0 on that. Where are you? That's the wrong 20, aren't you? Hold on. Let's go ahead and scale this real quick. Was it 2? Yeah, 2. Okay. And we can use our transform key to, not key, tool, transform tool to move everything where we need to move it. Up here in the top left is the rest of our tools. So hand tool, which I have never used. Next is the move tool, rotate if we wanted to rotate things. Of course, I highly recommend just using the values instead of doing it yourself, unless you're doing like a camera or something. We've got our scale tool, we can scale as well. Rect tool, and then yeah, the rest of these. Which really you just need the first, these 3 right here. It's the only ones you need. So yeah. So let's see if we can align this a little better. It's like set -10. Are we lined up properly? Let's try -9. Nope. -9.5 maybe? Yep, okay. Yeah, looks pretty flush. Not too bad. So another thing we're going to want to do, and it's very important in Unity, is we need to like do organization, and I'll show you folder organization in a second. I already have all my stuff set up, but I'll show you as well. So we need to rename this so we know what it is. This is our ground. You can call it whatever you like. This one on the right is our wall. And we can do Control D to duplicate it. We saw it duplicate in the hierarchy. We have wall 1 now. Move it over here. We can do positive 9.5. And it kept all the same values. It's scale 20, and it's at Y2. It's now at Z 9.5. Pretty simple stuff. And then for this wall, where is our camera? I'm gonna switch my thing back to 2 by. No, we'll keep it. We'll keep it. Where? Game. Okay, that's a terrible swap to the camera. I'm just gonna move my camera a little bit so I can see where everything is. So you don't have to name these like by north or anything. You can say like wall 1, wall 2 or whatever, but I am gonna call this north wall, and this will be south wall. Alright, we're also gonna need some more walls. I'll take this 90. That's the wrong way. Oh, it's already, okay. And just orient yourself and try to get all these set in. Alright. So this one should be our west wall. And we're going to duplicate this one, Control D. Slide it over here, fix the value. 9.5. And this will be our east wall. That should be south, right? Yeah, okay. Cool. Alright, and there's our little arena. You keeping up?
Yeah.
Alright, sweet. So, real quick before I go any further, I want to show you organization. Some of the main ones you're going to need. I don't know why I made this asset file. Normally it's sprites, but we're not working in 2D. We're using too many of those, so. But anyways, we got sprites, scripts, scenes, prefabs, materials, and downloaded assets. Downloaded assets come from the Unity store. We'll maybe get into that a little later. It's not very important right now, but organization is so very important. So that way, if you're searching through the files, you're trying to find a script, or if you are just trying to make sure that your build included that script as well, you're gonna want to know what files to look for. So yeah, we'll also talk about prefabs in a minute as well. Yeah, so just make whatever folders you think you might need. And you know what? Let's make a prefab real quick. We're going to select. Let's actually not do it that way. I'm going to shift select the ground, so holding shift and left clicking to select all these. And then we can drag them. Well, I'll reselect. And drag them. Should be able to drag them. Why aren't you dragging? Oh, they need to be childs of each other. I guess we can do that. So what this will do is now if I select ground, it'll select the whole thing. When you make a child of something, it does different things depending on what you're working with, but in this case, if we select the parent, which in this case is ground, right? And all I did was drag things into it. It'll select the entire thing. So, and now we should be able to drag ground into here. Yeah. So now, if we ever needed any more ground, we can just drag it straight out of our thing, and we have a bunch of them now. Alright, so I'm going to do this, click that. Alright, now let's try to make this not so difficult to look at real quick. We don't have a lot of options right now, because we're not going to be messing with the Unity store. right now we just have the materials. Like we did this in Mr. Ladler's class. You remember? We need to make a material. I already have ball and wall set up, but to make one, all you have to do is right click. You can right click here as well. Well, no, you can't. You right click here to create our materials. It's about in the middle under audio mixer, and that will make a new material. And we can name this whatever we like. Maybe walls 2. It'll default to white, and then now we should be able to change this, right? How did I do this earlier? Wait, no, I'm selecting. Wait, hold on a second. Why are we looking at? That's why. Okay. Alright, sorry. So we can go to walls 2. Undo this lock if you did click it. Yeah, we can go to walls 2 and click on this little, I don't know what to call it. I suppose color box, I guess. And we can choose whatever we like. Maybe go for like a green or something. I don't know. Actually, I'm gonna name this floor because I don't actually have a floor color or ground, I guess, because it is called ground. And you can name these whatever you like, whatever you can remember. And then we can just drag them on. So I'm kind of like doing a big no-no, which is changing the prefab in the scene. This is disgusting looking, by the way. maybe we don't use green because I'm not liking it. I don't know though. Maybe that's a little better. Yeah, so. It still looks pretty terrible though. Alright, so yeah, you're going to want to make some meshes. If you really wanted to, you could just throw them on there for the walls as well. But in my opinion, we're just going to throw this blue on there. And you can make as many materials as you like. Just make a dozen of them if you want, for different colors. Another thing we can do is we can also mess with like the albedo and the metallic. Oh, this is some stuff that I downloaded. You're not going to see all this. You should see this stuff. You should have this option. So if you click these, I know they're not very pretty, but anything that is different, right? Maybe that one kind of looks like an arena. Right. And then of course that changed our material. Alright, so there's our arena. Let's get a let's get our player. Let's get our player going. Move him to, make sure we're selecting the right thing. 0, 1. Are you here? Where are you? Alright, and then let's also get him a material if we haven't already. There we go. And then real quick, I'm also going to mess with his metallic. I'm going to throw on yeah, it looks pretty cool. This is all just cosmetic stuff, so it doesn't really have to do with too much. If you really wanted to, you can keep this all white, but obviously that would look pretty terrible and hard to tell what's going on. So there, we now have our arena, we have our ball. If you wanted to, you can make this any bigger. You could make this bigger if you would like, or smaller even. Every single one of these units is a meter, so maybe keep that in mind. What else? I think that's about it for our like non-scripting stuff. I'm pretty sure this is as far as we can go. I can't think of anything else that we might need. Maybe I'll talk about this. So when you make things, you just create a 3D object, like a cube. Right, we've got our cube. It comes with all this stuff, like just unchanged. We got a transform, which is where it is. The cube mesh, which has to do with cosmetics again. Render, once again, cosmetics. Box collider, which is very important. Let's get rid of all this so we just look at it. Box collider. So what this means is that anything that hits this, anything at all, anything that also has a collider, will stop. So kind of like just a wall in real life. We can edit it if we want to. It's this little kind of like green outline. We don't need to edit this at all, but if we wanted to, we could. So now, if a player were to run into this green box, even if it's not part of the white box, if they were running into the green box, they would stop. So kind of like an invisible barrier. So if we really, really wanted to, we could do this little maneuver. Create empty, which makes a nothing. It's nothing at all. You can see it on the right, it doesn't have anything. It just has transform. Let's move it to 0, 0 real quick. Except put this at 2. There it is. I'm going to delete our box, we don't need it. I'm just kind of showing you a little something. Let's call this boundary. We'll call this boundary. Right? And we can add a component to it like a box collider. And we don't want to use 2D. We are working in 3D, so we don't want to use 2D. So we can add a box collider. So now anything that runs into this green box will stop. And then we can go into this. Okay, stretch it. Make it taller if we want. And then I can move. There we go. And if we wanted to, we could put it like, I don't know, on top of the wall we already have. So now, actually, we don't even need this. We don't even need this now. Oh, well, I can't delete it because I have it part of the prefab, but you get the idea. So if we wanted to, we can have invisible barriers to keep our player within his little space. But I will not be doing that. We'll be keeping our barrier. I'm also going to rename the sphere to player. So far we have our ground, which is a prefab, and it also has children, which all I did to make that was drag all of these parts into it. We've got our player, who's just kind of chilling in the middle. He's not part of the prefab, and he's not part of the child, so we can, differentiate by just opening and closing it. Family, I guess we call that family. Parent, and then children, and then family. Yeah. I'm so glad I have a null reference exception, even though I haven't started coding yet. That's pretty cool. Thanks, Unity. Let's go back to project. So now I think we've avoided it for as long as we can. It's time to start coding. Are you with me still?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. I thought I was muted in OBS. I was about to say. I was about to cry. So we're gonna need to make a script. It used to be that we had JavaScript in Unity. I started learning in JavaScript until they removed it. So now we just have C#. So we're going to need to make a new C# script. I'm going to use the ones I already have, but you're going to want to make one. Call it whatever you want to, but we're going to be first doing movement. That's going to be the first one we do, is movement. So hold on, let me get rid of this. We don't need that. Okay. So yeah, make a C# script called movement. And like I said, we did this in Louder. Alright, once we've done that, I need to figure out how I can screen share my actual Visual Studio, which is here. This is going to look a little overwhelming, because I guess I could open a new C# file, but the problem is that I don't have two monitors, so I couldn't even hide like all the work. So there is the code. But don't worry, it's nothing hard. It's nothing hard at all. Oh no, I can't capture. Alright, hold on. Let's try. Yeah, that works. Okay. Alright, there we go. We just won't be capturing specifically. Alright, so can you see the Visual Studio?
Yeah.
Alright, sweet. So, right off the bat, all of this green, don't worry about it. It's just notes. You can write notes in Unity just by doing // just //, and you can write whatever you want. Like whatever you want, whatever helps you understand the code. So all this green is literally just comments. Like it's just my notes, like talking about what everything is. Which let me add some notes up here. These are libraries. So without this, you kind of can't do any coding at all. You don't have to worry about typing this because your script is going to have it already. This is our public class. We can also Well, no, we can't make it more of these in Unity. We could in other coding IDEs. But public class movement, and movement is the name of our script. It is very important that this movement is named. Well, you don't have to keep it the same as mine. This is optional. This is whatever you named it. It is very important that whatever you name the script back in Unity is the same as the one here. Otherwise, it just won't work. Okay.
Okay.
Alright, so first thing we need to do is we need to make a public rigid body and then just call it whatever you want. This is a variable. If you wanted to, you can call this ball. Wait, you can call it ball, or you can call it house, or whatever. But I'm calling it Rigi because it's short for rigid body. Right? So what this does is it creates a public variable in the inspector. So Control S, hit Control S, which will save, and then let's. Ooh, I can't switch between Unity. Okay, I'll talk about it later. If I could switch easier, like between Visual Studio and Unity, I would, and I'll show you what this line of code does. But anytime you make a public variable like this, right? So this is a public and then a thing. So if we were to do another one, we would do like public game object player, I guess, right? So this is very specific, and this is very specific. There's a ton of these. Like maybe another one would be like public can. Oh, can I spell? Okay, hold on. Canvas. There we go. Public canvas for canvas, right? So this part here, like the part in the middle, is very specific. You have to get those right with whatever you're trying to ask for. And I'll show you what these do later. We don't, by the way, we don't need this. I just kind of threw that in there to kind of show you how to make more of them. So if at any time you're trying to like, I can't really explain it without showing you in Unity. So I'm going to tab back over to Unity. So let me, new share? Yeah, new share, okay. Wait, I can just share screen? Wait, does that work? Can you see?
Yeah.
You see me switching?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I understand now. I've never used Zoom before like this. Alright, cool. So real quick, you're going to drag your movement script onto your player. You can do that if you just select him. You can do it here. You can do it here if you wanted to. However, you won't drop it on the ground accidentally. So now, under player, we've got our movement script. Let's close all this because we don't need it, so we just need to look at this. So when we made, you probably don't have this speed, but you do have Rigi, or whatever you named it, and rigid body. So whenever you make a public anything, so if we were to go back and we were to do that, oh, not too far. Public game object, Control S to save, and then go back to Unity and let it load. What? I already broke something. Did I spell game object wrong? I did. Okay, cool. Is it capital G? Unity loves capitals. Oh, yep, that was right. So as you can see, it added a new thing. It's called player, and it's asking for a game object. And you can select these little dots to find whatever you need. It'll very specifically find what you need. So all of this stuff listed here are game objects, because I clicked on the little dot over game objects, right? Right here, I clicked on that. And then everything here are game objects. So if we wanted to, we could drag any of these in here. I'll show you the reason for that later. But right now, we do not need public game object player. I'm just trying to show you how to make them and what they do. So we're going to get rid of that. So it creates a public variable in the inspector that we can manipulate. So on top of that, we can also do public float speed. So that's what that speed thing was. So if you want to do that, you can do that as well. When we set it equals to something, we set a default. So that's the new default. And if we go back to Unity, we can actually manipulate that speed now. So if you want to change it to 1 or 11 or -4 for whatever reason you want to, or 1, oh, that's the wrong button, 1,000,000, whatever it is, you know, you can do whatever you want, whatever you like. Yeah, so public, when you make public variables, they show up here in your script, okay? Very handy, very, very handy. Public defines the access, that's what this is. So other accesses are like, we have like private. right? So we could do like a private rigid body, if we wanted to. I think those are the only two. I think there's a third one, but I can't remember it. Rigid body specifies the component or game object. So like I said, the middle, that's the middle part. So if whatever we're asking for. And Rigi is just our variable name. So like I said, we can call this whatever we want, just like we did here. Right? So float. Have you taken computer science before?
Yes.
What are you at? Like one or two?
I took it in high school.
Oh wow, okay. Well, even still, it's the same thing. Float is a type of like integer to store things in. Don't like overthink what it's called. Like I know it's called float, and that doesn't make much sense. But the other one is called integer, which is typed. The syntax for that is just int. So we could do this like public int speed, which is just how we store a number. We're going to keep floats because floats really likes decimals. So yeah, it's a data type. So we have integer, double, and the syntax for that is just double. We're not going to be using double too much. Float is just like the holy grail, kind of. And these store numbers, and they will only ever store numbers. They will not store letters, and they will not store characters. For that, we will use string, but we don't need it. So, right. So integer will not work with decimals at all. So if at any time your object is doing anything with decimals, you better change it to double or float. Double works with decimals, and float very much works with decimals. So when we're doing something like moving or doing speed, so like if we need to like build up speed, it'll build up from 1 to 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.3 or whatever. But if we did integer, I'm pretty sure we would just go 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and then to 10. So next thing, make sure you have these because we do actually need this, the things I'm keeping. Next up, we're going to have our privates. Like I said, these ones, they're different from public because they will not show up in the inspector and they cannot be changed from another script. I'm pretty sure there is a workaround to that. Like you could specify if you wanted a private float to be messed around with, but we're not going to worry about that. Private just means that it won't show up in the inspector. It's the same thing as a public, basically you just can't see it. And it's kind of like security, if you will. Here's float again, we've seen that, and here's just another variable. We can change that to y, we can change that to u, it literally doesn't matter. But for the sake of simplicity and understanding, it's going to be x and z, because that's the two planes we're working on, x and z. I'm not going too fast, am I?
No, you're fine.
I need to get some water pretty soon. Void is a type of function. Void functions do not need to return a variable. So if you remember in class, we did the add number, but we did not use a void function for that. That's because we needed to return a value. Luckily, we're not doing any of that today, so we get to do the simple stuff. So void is the first part. Awake is a variable name, so we can change this to, well actually no, I'm lying. We got to keep wake. Down here, we need awake. Down here, process inputs. We can name this whatever we want. We can name this whatever we want. But we need awake and update specifically for what we're going to do. So yeah. Awake. Awake specifically, it just kind of tells Unity that, hey, when you're loading, I want you to do this. So there's awake, there's start, and there's, which you probably have start. We don't need start, by the way. We just need awake and update for now, and fixed update, which you will write pretty soon. Yeah, awake gets called when the game starts loading. When the game starts and the player is able to play, that is when start gets called. Update gets called every single frame, and then fixed update gets called a lot more consecutively, like every 25 frames, I think. But that's kind of not important. We'll get to like the rest of the notes in a minute. The next part of the code you're going to write is this right here. It's Rigi, get component, rigid body. Capitalization is incredibly important for this stuff. Not when using variables. You just need to make sure your variables match. That's all. Pretty easy. Right? Get component, rigid body. So here's the rigid body that we were asking for earlier. Actually, I just realized something. So alternatively to the public variable, we can request that the rigid body is given to us this way. Unity will actually find it for us. So if we wanted to, we could just delete this and use this instead. They do the exact same thing, these two right here. The only difference is that this one will not, we don't have to drag the rigid body into the inspector like I showed you. This one will do it for us. It'll say, okay, what object are we on? Okay, we're on the player. The player has a rigid body. I have it. And then it's good. We don't have to do any kind of like inspector work. So that's what this does. If you want to keep this, you can. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. If you don't want to use this, you don't have to. I think you actually have to have a private. Maybe keep this because I think you're supposed to have a private to have this still. Moving on. Void update. So this is called once per frame. It's good for taking inputs and animations. Private means it cannot be changed by another script or from an inspector variable. So like, you know how we can change speed in the inspector? If this was private, this would be permanently locked at 10 unless we came in here to the code to change it. So having it public is very handy because we don't have to open Visual Studio. Okay, so yeah, inspector variable. So this is just calling a function. So we're going to kind of skip this for now. We're going to go on to, not this one, we're going to go on to this right here. Right? So this says private void process inputs. Again, the axis is private, the function type is void, and this is our name. Like I said, we can name this whatever we want. We can name this house. We can name this SAU if we wanted to. But we're going to keep what I have, just because I'm not changing all my code. Right? So this is just for organization. So when you are coding, and you're going to find this out when you start taking your CS classes, it is incredibly good programming, what's it called? Manners, I guess, practice, to make functions like this. We could literally, like if I wanted to, I could take this code right here, and we could just throw it into void update, and it would work literally the same way, right? But we're not going to do that. The reason why is because we need to be able to organize. Organization is very important. This code is only 48 lines long, and that's because of comments. You know, realistically, it'd probably be like 30 or 20. So having 100 lines or 1,000 lines, and if you have everything, like all of these like little calculations inside of void update, for every single thing you're doing, you're gonna pull your hair out. So it's good to make functions like this. So how this works is that this right here is kind of like an instruction, is what this is. So from here to here, like if we didn't have this, this is like the default of how it works. And even then, we don't even need private technically. So that's the default right there, plus whatever name you put here, right? So whatever is inside of here gets executed when this happens. So whenever void update happens, which remember happens once per frame, this happens, which means this happens, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Same thing for this. Okay. So all this is doing right here is this. Once again, this is our variable that we declared at the top, up here at the x and our z. Input.getAccess horizontal. This just is asking Unity where is the thing that we're putting the script on. Where is it? Once it has it, it's going to take it here. And we can see here we have our x and our z here. And this is taking the rigid body and it's adding force to a new vector. And it's doing this a little bit of math. I'm not really going to explain it because I don't understand it that well. But this is just our equation / syntax for movement. So I'll let you copy the rest of this and you let me know when you're good. You don't need to copy the comment if you don't want to.
I'll be right back. I have to restart my computer because to open this Visual Studio, I have to restart.
Okay.
So I'll be right back.
All right. Ba-da-da. Okay, everything here looks pretty good. What are you complaining about? What scene is this? The editor scene view. I don't even remember what this does.
I stepped away for a couple minutes. Did everybody leave?
Nah, he's on his way back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he had to restart his computer.
Okay. It didn't look like you were done, so.
Nope. We've only just gotten done with the first script, though I won't have to explain camera or coin as they're very short scripts. So I won't have to. And I did like all of my notes and stuff in here, so that's why this looks so long.
Cool. I hope even if people couldn't make it to this, that they watch the video later.
Absolutely. I mean, if they want to do, their project right, the tutorial that he sent was it's a tutorial, but it's not the best tutorial because it wanted to use a new input system for Unity, and I just took one look at that and said nope and started coding. Not for me. So hopefully, I mean, people are gonna like watch the tutorial and they'll do it that way, but this one is by far more comprehensive and in depth, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. Looks like Zion's back.
Yeah. Which I am glad he's here because I can actually like get feedback in the middle of my recording here.
Yeah.
Wish I had 2 monitors so I could copy this faster.
Oh
But,
yeah.
but it would take me a while. Yeah.
Like I said, you don't need any of the green. If you want to copy it, you absolutely can.
Well, you say you're making a video of this, so I can just look back at the video.
Yeah.
Okay, you can keep going. Okay.
Okay. So you've gotten all the white and yellow and whatnot. Just like private void and stuff. You have all this.
No.
Okay. You are gonna need this for the rest of this. So
Okay.
just not the green. Don't copy the green. Keep in mind, capitalization is important. I'm gonna step away real quick and grab some water. I'll be right back. Won't take me long. Alright, how we doing?
Again there.
Alright.
I'm at the private void process inputs. I'm about to copy the x equals input.
Alright, sweet. Real quick, I'm gonna do a thing. I'm gonna explain functions a little bit more. That's not how you spell. Uh, I guess I need a variable for this. I'm not gonna worry about that.
Should I get the private void move?
Yeah, we need that too.
Okay.
Let me see if I can, because this one's a little, how do I reopen Zoom here so it's not collapse? Oh, here, chat. Let's see if this works. Yeah, there you go. We don't need that backslash X. I'll do that in there. It's in Zoom chat right now.
Just copy paste that.
Yep. Get rid of that backslash at the very end. I didn't mean to throw that in there. Let me see if it copy pastes for me, okay. Oh yeah, it'll be fine.
I got it.
Alright, Control S. Hope we don't have any issues. And let's go back to Unity.
Yep, no issues.
Alright, sweet. So, we should already have the movement script on our player, our little ball, whatever color it may be. And as you see here, we're missing our rigid body, and we have our speed defaulted to 10. Like I said, you can change that to whatever you like. I'm going to leave mine at 10 though. We can also throw the script on whatever we want. If we wanted to, we could put it on this wall. We could put it on a square that we dragged in for whatever reason. It's a script, you know, it can be put on whatever. So long as it has a sphere collider or not a sphere collider, a collider. So box collider, and then of course a sphere will have a sphere collider. Next thing we need to do is we need a rigid body. So if I hit play, Unity is going to get very angry and yell at me because there's no rigid body attached to the player game object. And of course, if you remember, we had two ways of finding a rigid body. One, if there was already one in the component menu, or two, if well, either way, we have to have one in the component menu. One way was if the script found it on its own, and the other way is if I put it there on my own. So, in other words, we go to rigid body. We don't want 2D, we want this one, the first one, because 2D is for 2D stuff, right? This has to do with like anything that moves, like at all, or anything that's going to be physics based. So if we want to have a block drop on top of a character's head, we need a rigid body. If we want something to go flying across the screen, like a bullet or anything like that, we need a rigid body. It has our mass, it has our drag, it has our angular drag, gravity. We can even like freeze a position if we wanted to keep it from turning it a certain way or moving a certain direction. And we have random info as well. You can increase the mass to make it heavier if you want. The drag as well to make it slower. But we don't need to do any of that. We can just leave it perfectly alone. So for now, if we hit play, it'll fix. Yes, and we can actually start moving. And we can see in the right, under play, that the script found the rigid body, which again is in our inspector under components, and it put it in there for us. Is it working for you?
Yeah.
Sweet. Alright, let's get out of the way, Zoom. Try and do stuff. Right, so, and then of course we go back to our edit, it leaves. So typically if we're not using that one line of code, this one here, that finds it for us, and if we're just using this, we will have to drag it in like so. That easy. It's literally that easy. It's literally that easy. So typically, you know, this one is easier, even though it's longer code. If we're maybe changing stuff around, I guess you could use a public rigid body. It's whatever you prefer, or we can have both if you want. Obviously, that's going to complicate things when you press play, but you could have both. Right, so that is our player, and he is in fact moving. And honestly, we've already completed the assignment. Like, there was no other constraints other than to roll a ball. But for the sake of making things kind of nicer, just a tad bit, I'm going to show you two more scripts that are very short, and they don't need to be explained because I've done most of my explaining already. So go ahead, let's go back to project, and we're going to make a new script called, let's call it camera. We're going to do the camera one. I'm going to go ahead and open that up in Visual Studio as well. Like I said, very short. All that this script will do is it will tell the camera where to be when we move. So that way we don't have like this really terrible like view, you know, where it's like looking at the ball. We'll have a much more third person view, if that makes sense. Or even first person if that's what you want. But I'm pretty sure the camera won't rotate. Yeah, it definitely will not rotate. So this is more of a third person camera script. Go ahead and start copying this down. This right here, all that this is, like these are the same thing, right? The same way we've been doing public stuff. The only difference is I stacked the variables. So if I were to do this, my offset, if you see, it works, right? They're literally the same thing. It's just I just stacked them because, you know, why not? And of course these are all three different variables. The commas are important, and we are only using void update in this case. I'm going to throw these into the chat because they are very long and very specific, so I'm going to save you a little bit of time. I just threw the guts of the void update.
Okay, I got it.
Alright, sweet. Control S, and we're going back to Unity. Alright, so let's find our camera over here in the hierarchy, and let's give it our camera scripts. Alright, and just drag it over. This is a much better example of how the public variable works, because the target is our player, but our player doesn't have the script, so we can't use we can't use that one piece of code to find it, and obviously we're not just dragging it, right? Because it's on a different thing, but we can still we can still drag it. It just works better. Like, this is just a much better example of how the public variable works. So anything that we need, anything at all, like whatever the target for the camera is going to be, is going to go right here. If you wanted, it could be this wall for, well, whatever reason we wanted that. It could be a coin or whatever else you have in the... Okay, interesting. It could be a coin, you know, it could be anything, whatever your target is. But in this case, we need it to be the player. I am going to have you set your offset and your Z offset to these numbers, just because they're kind of better. It's just kind of what works. You can mess around, change it if you want. All this does is change where the camera's position is when it looks at the camera. We're also going to change our rotation to 45 degrees as well, right here on our X in the transform menu. And that'll make the camera point the direction we want to. And then when we hit play, boom, third person. Working okay for you?
It's saying that can't add script component camera because the script class cannot be found.
Okay, you named it wrong then. If we go to here, make sure whatever you named the script in Unity is the same as whatever you have in the code. So this part right here, make sure they're the same. You don't have to name it camera, you just need to name it whatever you've named it.
I named it, wait, I might have spelled it wrong. Camera. I think I spelled it right. Can I look at your code again?
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Camera. Okay, I got it.
All right, sweet. Yeah, so when you hit play, you're in third person, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we're going to do coin. It's very simple, but before I go to the script, we need to spawn a cube. Create 3D object, cube. Let's get it where we can see it. What are you doing all the way over there? Come here. There we go. Let's just kind of throw it like right there, I guess. And I'm going to rename this as... You can also press F2 to rename things. I'm going to name it coin. So one thing that we need to do for certain is to enable this little checkbox right there when you make your your cube. I'm also gonna go make a material for it real quick. Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. There we go. Okay, so yeah, just make sure you have this checked. It's under the box collider, so right there. And what that's going to do is that is going to make it so that anything that interacts with it will it makes anything moving. Like if we were to hit play right now, if I can, if we were to hit play right now, we will just go right through it. Even though it has a collider, we know it has a collider. We can look right here on coin. We see it has a collider, but when we turn on the trigger, it means that if we move into it or if anything touches it, it's just going to pass right through because it's looking to do something when that happens. Specifically, since this is a coin, we're looking to score points. And of course, when you collect a coin, it deletes itself anyways. So it doesn't really matter if we can face through it. Ba-da-dum-ba-bum. Where's scripts? Okay, so once you have your cube and you have this little check mark, we can go ahead and go into script again. So we're going to make a new script once again. This is our last one, and we're coming to the end of the tutorial, I suppose. Coin. And this one is also incredibly short. We don't need void start and we don't need void update, but I'm keeping them because I'm probably going to change this later.
Can you copy and paste it from him?
Oh yeah, I got you. Not a problem. Zoom, where are you? Chat. Control V. There you go, boss. That is literally the only part of it that you need. Just this private void. So I am going to explain this real quick. So the private void, that's stuff we've already seen before, but on trigger enter is going to be new. Now, like void start and void update that actually, do something, unlike the like a movement when we had like void move that don't actually have a unity function per se. Like how void update is called once per frame, move has nothing like that. Neither does process inputs. That's because these are just normal functions. On trigger enter is like void update and void start. It actually does something. What this does it's kind of like an if statement, and it says if a trigger on a collider is activated by touching of anything, um, then this script, the guts execute, right? So it's looking for a collider, so any collider that touches it, and it doesn't matter which one. Movement component, other game modules. Oh, this is looking for a script. So this is asking for the movement script that we made. So you might get an error here. So whatever you named the script that we put on the player, make sure that these match. Okay? Whatever you named it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it looks for the script on the game object, whatever you put it on, which in this case is our player. And this is, of course, is an if statement. If you've taken computer science and you say you have, you know what this is. It says if the component is not found, sorry, if it is not null, which means if it is not existing. So it means if we found one, in other words. So long as the component from above is found, then execute the statement. So then it's going to execute the guts right here, which is just the debug.log like we learned in class. It just says it scores 1 point. There is a way to display it on screen, but that is pretty complicated, and it would take another hour for me to design and explain, because it's just, it's working with canvases I hate. I hate working with canvases. But that's the way you would do it. But debug.log is how we're going to do it. And once you've controlled S and gone back to Unity, and you've applied this to your coin script, to your coin, like so, and we hit play. Go to console, go to game, and we can see we get 1 point in the debug log. And of course, we didn't change anything on the ball. It still runs into the walls perfectly fine. But the coin, because it's set to a trigger, it goes right through. And I know it doesn't delete itself, but maybe that's work for another day. But yeah, that's how you roll a ball, I guess.
Wow.
It's really a lot more simple than I made it out to seem. When you get into like some of your bigger Unity projects, it'll not become harder, but it'll become more complex. Like a lot of stuff that I use today in these scripts, like the trigger, you'll use this a lot. You'll be making tons and tons of functions. You'll be using fixed update and update, of course, and awake even. You'll be making thousands of floats and variables and stuff. Not thousands, but you'll be making a lot. To define everything, but yeah, the hardest part is just this mess, you know? Is like just figuring out how this goes together. But at the end of the day, it's just syntax, so yeah, that's the end. You now know how to roll a ball, and your project is complete.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. At least now I know how to like go around Unity stuff, and I kind of know my way around. I can always watch a video if I get lost again. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm gonna switch back to this. Is there any like questions you have like about Unity that you might? Oh, the asset store. Do you mind if I go into that?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
I know about it though. I know about it. Like when I was playing with Unity, I bought some free assets. And
Oh,
I
you
just
did?
like trying to make some mountains.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, yeah. All right. It's just as simple as that. You know, you could do. I think it's Control 9. No. Okay. Window. Asset store. Yeah, and it'll open up a new browser, and we can go in here. We can say like free character or something. I don't know. And then we'll get a list of free characters that we can download, and we can use. Yeah, it's that simple. You just grab and then download. And then eventually, if you find everything that you like, you can have something that looks a little like this. which is literally what we just made, but you know, mine just has a bunch of assets thrown onto it. I want to, before I turn mine in, I intend to make like a maze or a pretty, um, quite the game out of it, I guess I'm trying to say. Like, I'll have the coins spawn, I'll have stuff come out of the ground and try to knock you off the edge. And we have this pretty skybox to look at too. Not that we can see it in the camera, I don't think. Yeah, no, you can't. That's funny. Yeah, that's it really.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
See you later.
Yeah, peace out.